my talk. Here we go. He said he living life as a gringo, where you question where you fit in every time you mingle. They say you do this with not enough that. My rapping is really bad. This life as a gringo.
Yes, hello and welcome to season 3 of Life as a Gringo. First, can we just stop and pause for a second here and think about how crazy that is to say? Because it's 3 years now, almost at this point, that I've been doing this podcast, and it's wild. Like that, I'm being real honest with you guys. And today we have an amazing show. I'm excited to bring you today's show. But before I get into that, I just want to take a second to really be present to this, because when I started this podcast, man, my life was in a far different place financially, mentally, every which way you possibly could imagine. I recorded the original version of the show, the demo episode of the show, which ended up being the mental health episode, which I think was episode 2 or 3. I recorded that in the dining room of my old apartment that I had with my roommate in Jersey City, New Jersey. Now today, almost 3 years later, actually 3 years later from when I recorded that, I sit here in my studio in a building that I own, in a studio that I built, as a labor of love. And it's just wild, man. It's wild to think how far you can come in just a few short years. And it's not lost on me how special it is that I get to be doing this for a third year. Quite honestly, I think when I first got the podcast deal, I initially was like, you know what? My own imposter syndrome kicked in. I was like, I'm going to have at least this one season. It'll give me a year of runway to figure out whatever the next step is. And not because I didn't love it, not because I didn't want it to be a success, was because I personally didn't think that I could be a success in this fully, 100%. I wanted to believe it. I did everything I could to make myself believe it. There was a part of me that genuinely thought this would kind of be a one and done type of thing, and it'd be a cool story to tell, and it gave me an extra year of runway to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And now 3 years later, it's crazy. So thank you to every single one of you guys who are listening to this. It's really because of you that I continue to get to do what I love doing, and hopefully as a result of me doing what I love doing, I'm creating change in some way, or giving people ideas that allow them to then create change in their life. I don't know. I'm just trying to do my part here. I'm so grateful for it. So thank you. With that said, today's show, by popular demand, because one of the best performing episodes of the entire podcast over the last 3 years at this point, it's still episode 1, the episode that I did with my parents. So in this sort of moment of gratitude, and also just so much has changed between the dynamic of when that was recorded and my relationship with my parents now. We've grown, and there's been so many beautiful changes. It only felt right to kick off this third season with my parents once again, and just kind of the update on our healing journey together and all that we've learned from one another over these last 3 years, and the beautiful journey that's been really repairing that relationship, and us just getting a lot closer. And I mean, it's been a beautiful blessing for me to be able to say that, I have this amazing relationship with my parents these days. And obviously it wasn't easy. We had our own issues like anybody else does, but it's been a really beautiful blessing and a journey to kind of get to this place. And I don't know, I thought it'd be a great way to share it in this season 3 debut, as we kick off a brand new season, a brand new year of Life as a Gringo. So big shout out to Brent J Life Coaching for the suggestion, for really driving it home. And it's funny that I interview people all the time for this podcast or other shows or other things that I do, and nobody makes me more nervous than when I know I have to interview my parents. Like I was, it's just, I've been panicking, prepping it. I was putting off asking them to, pick a date to record. It's funny how, little things like that, will get you nervous. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say with that. I'm getting nervous as I think about it, but without further ado, we're gonna do that today. That's gonna be the main gist of our show today, is just a conversation with my parents and where we are at this point in our lives. And it's a beautiful thing, man. So without further ado, let's really get into season 3, Life as a Gringo, and we'll kick things off with a conversation with my parents in our Mi Gente segment. My guests today are my parents, backed by popular demand. The first time we recorded was about 3 years ago. Can you believe that already?
I know.
Yeah, time has gone by.
My mom, Nancy. You want to say hi? Say your voice.
Hi, everyone.
Ben, my father.
Hi.
Um,
Senor.
3 years ago, things were a lot different. I feel like
I think so too.
in my life and in our relationship. And I think people have been asking me about. First of all, that episode was a very popular because I think it spoke to a lot of people. I think a lot of people they don't have the chance to have a conversation with their parents, be it that they're not here anymore or they don't have that kind of relationship. And I think as weird as it is to talk with cameras and microphones in each other's faces, I think a lot of people kind of were able to resonate with us being able to sit down and have some conversation about me growing up and all that you guys went through growing up. And yeah, I'm thinking back to 3 years ago, and it's we're a few months away from when we actually launched the podcast. And reflecting back, I'm really grateful for these last 3 years. And when I think about it, I can honestly say that I felt very supported when I made the decision to leave everything else behind and do this podcasting thing full time. And it was the first time I really felt like I really had everybody's support and was really understood and seen in all that I was trying to accomplish. So I guess I wanted to just kind of start there. If you could go back to 3 years ago, what was different that you just kind of, for whatever reason, were just on board with, I don't know, so not in supporting this, but also really believing that this was the right decision for me.
Yeah. Well, I thought about this today, even coming here,
Mhm.
and I thought this is where this would lead.
Mhm.
And we're definitely in a different place than we were 3 years ago. 3 years ago, you discussed it with us, and it was new to us too with podcasts. Still a little concern of stability. Um, But as time went by, I noticed how much you have grown and the passion that you have for doing this.
Mhm.
And I saw how you kept moving up, and that helped us actually, when we talked about it, say, um, we really want to support him because I can see how much he loves what he does, and that to me is very important because if you're doing something that you don't have a passion for,
Mhm.
you don't really give 100%. And I did notice that you started believing more in yourself. I also noticed your self esteem has definitely, where, in other words, that you have developed a lot of confidence in yourself,
Mhm.
you know, and almost determined that I'm going to succeed.
Mhm.
And because we saw all that, we just stood behind you and we said, we will be there because this is what he believes in. And I believe that Danny will really reach his goal.
Mhm.
No, absolutely. That makes us, very happy that you're able to,
Accomplish.
yeah, and succeed in what you wanted to do. You know, you like what you do. The best feeling in the world, I can imagine, is to work in what you like. You have the knack. You've been able to set up everything the way that you wanted it. From 3 years ago, it was basically an unknown. How would all of this would develop? How would it, you know, go forward, and what would you be able to accomplish? And from back then to now, that's huge. I mean, I'm very, we were proud of you before, but we're even more proud
And
because, and very happy because obviously you're able to do what you really like.
yeah, and one thing that I noticed and that I'm so proud of you for doing this. And I noticed how you're reaching out to young people like you to say, "Hey, I made it. This is where I started," and you kind of you inspire so many people. And to me, that was very important that we reach out to these kids that need someone that they can actually say, "Hey, I'm like him. I can make it. He made it. I can make it." So to me, this is very important. I think as a former principal, um, that was my main goal. That was my, you know, main focus was those children that I felt we needed to do something for them. And I see that you're following in those same footsteps, where I can see and I read when you have made a difference in other people's lives. So, that I compliment you for that and very proud of you that you actually use yourself as an example out there, for people to hear what you went through. You understand? And it was a lot of struggle. It wasn't handed to you. You worked hard. And when you work hard, these are the things that you can do. And don't allow anyone to step on your dreams. So I felt that message that you have out there is something that I will always feel proud of because that was my focus as a former principal of a Bronx school where kids needed people like us to make them feel they're important and that they can also accomplish. I use myself also as an example because I grew up in the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
I went to schools in the Bronx, and somehow I was able to relate and the children were able to relate to me because I always use myself as an example. I grew up in this same neighborhood, and this is where I'm at, and you can do the same thing. And that's the message that I see you bring out there every day.
Yeah, it's strange to hear you guys say some of these things, I have to admit,
Hmm.
because I don't think we'd say a lot of this stuff out loud. I've never heard you talk about being able to see my confidence grow or any of those things. And I'm not saying that as like a negative, to shame you. I think it's very sort of normal. I think in family dynamics, we don't take time to really be that intentional
Hmm.
and talk about our feelings,
Yes.
or express certain things for people that we care about until they're gone or until some sort of accident happens or there's a moment like this where we are kind of sitting down and reflecting and being grateful.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Why don't we talk about this stuff? What do you think?
It's just, the lifestyle is cultivated, I guess, here in the mainland.
Um,
We're doing other,
Not in Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico,
not,
they
not
take the
so much.
time to.
No, but it's just that people
I,
are more conversational over there. They're strike
But
conversations
why don't we talk
much
about
easier.
feelings? Is what I mean.
right. You're saying the feelings that I was expressing about what I've noticed
Yeah.
and your
I mean,
why
obviously,
we
we
never
say
talked about
we
it.
love each
We
other and
love
things
each
like
other.
that, but
Yes.
we
I
never,
think, well, that's important what you're saying
Mhm.
because I think we take it for granted
Yes.
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
that this is what we feel.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lesson to say don't take it for granted. I think people need to hear it,
Mhm.
only because by you expressing, you're saying to this person, hey, I'm proud of you. I see your accomplishments,
Mhm.
and I can see. I mean, I know that I've mentioned,
Sure.
you've come a long way.
Mhm.
I have said that, but I think it's a lesson. That it's okay to say it. Maybe sometimes we feel like, what am I going to say?
Mhm.
Even though Ben and I, your dad and I, we discussed. I said, boy, Danny has really come a long
Oh
way.
yeah,
I
always.
feel so proud of him. But you're right. I think that we need to take more time out to express feelings, whether they could be positive
Mhm.
or sometimes can be negative, but, you know, it's something that I think by you bringing it up, it's going to put us now almost like the next steps,
Mhm.
or the next steps when you do your next podcast.
Mhm.
This will be the follow up.
Yeah. But it's just funny how it's even the like obviously if it's a harder conversation like a negative conversation, it's obviously going to be uncomfortable. But even receiving something positive feels a bit uncomfortable,
Mhm.
Why
and
does it feel uncomfortable?
I guess because it's just abnormal. It's not it's not something that is the norm. I don't know.
I don't know. I
Or do you think that way because you think maybe they're just saying it to make me feel good? Is that something that maybe came across your mind?
Are you saying
Yeah.
it because of us or people that you meet that they don't recognize?
No, I think in
Uh,
general, I think
General.
if somebody compliments me, be it you guys, even if it's not just you guys, if it's somebody on the street or if it's somebody, who listens to the show and says something positive or like reaches out to tell me that something I did or said had a profound effect on them, I have a hard time believing it fully or receiving it, or it makes me uncomfortable. I almost want, if it's in person that I see people or run into them and they're complimenting me, I almost can't wait for the conversation to be over.
Yeah. I think maybe we don't think it's as common um as it is. Like that's how I felt.
Mhm.
I still feel that way. That sometimes when people pay compliments, I go, it makes me feel uncomfortable, and at the same time, I'm wondering if they're being truthful or are they
Yeah.
just saying it just to make me feel good. So I think this is kind of a almost like a norm,
Mhm.
that people become uncomfortable when you say what, as you said, whether it's positive or negative. I know that I still feel that way.
Mhm.
You know, I think maybe we didn't hear it enough,
Yeah.
and then when it started happening, then you're questioning it.
Mhm.
That's a possibility.
I take a little bit of different view. Start recognizing, do some in retrospecting.
Mm.
Look at yourself
Mhm.
inside
Okay.
and see what has been accomplished in that friendship, in that relationship. Either because that person had some influence on you, or because you influenced that person's life, and what were you able to help each other with?
Yeah, but what do you mean in the context of being comfortable with one another expressing things?
Because that's, if you have someone close to you and you're helping that person, that's a given that you already feel comfortable with that person helping them and being open.
Yeah, but I think what is also missing is sometimes when you think you're helping, you're actually hurting.
Mhm.
In what sense you're hurting?
Why? Because I think as and again, I want to preface this isn't a blame game. I saw a quote the other day that really resonated where they said, take it easy on your parents. This is their first time doing life too.
Mhm.
And you know, I think we unfairly expect our parents to have all the answers.
Mhm.
But what I'm saying is I think oftentimes we all do this where our own limited view on the world or our ability to see something, that's what we're judging other people's intentions or their interest on, right? So like when we talk about me in the entertainment industry and things like that, I had a clear vision of what I wanted to do and I had a plan and I was ready to put in the work. But your inability to know about the ins and outs of that industry didn't allow you to fully support that.
Mhm.
And in your mind, you're helping me by um, trying to have me be more realistic or
Mhm.
have a more traditional path.
Mhm.
But in reality, it's implementing those moments of self doubt in my head,
Mhm.
where
Mhm.
I'm then doubting my own reality, my own vision, my own
Mhm.
ability to create what I see.
Mhm.
And again, I understand that it's not done with the intention of that. But what I'm saying is, I think we also lack the self awareness
Yeah,
as
because
human
I
beings.
think I actually believe that that comes from our own childhood.
Sure.
You understand? Like I grew up in a home that, the entertainment business, oh no, drugs, a whole different lifestyle. So when that's what they're constantly putting in your head, you can't do this because this is what's going to happen.
Mhm.
So, I think a lot of this comes from cultures. You understand? As I said, I grew up in a very strict home,
Mhm.
um, where the entertainment business was not, for everyone.
Mhm.
Let me put it that way. And yes, as time went by, you taught us because you really said, hey, look, I'm in the entertainment business, but I'm not on drugs.
Mhm.
I'm not a drug addict. I'm not, because that's the stereotype.
Right.
If you were in music, you were in a band, so it was already this stereotype that if you did that, you were on drugs. You were, your lifestyle was completely different.
Beyond even the entertainment industry, I think the bigger conversation is we also can normalize being in the struggle.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like we almost can shoot ourselves in the foot
Hmm.
because we don't realize how much potential we actually have or we're so used to living a certain way, we've normalized it almost, right? Where we've normalized generationally not having extra money to do extra things, or not having the luxury to figure out life a little bit slower
Right.
than rush into it, right?
Right.
You guys didn't have that same luxury, and you then carried that same mindset, and because you thought that was the right thing, began to instill that in me. And it's different for everybody. I think for me, my answer to that was to rebel against you guys,
Mm-hmm.
and to sort of move with a chip on my shoulder that I was just going to prove everybody wrong.
Right.
And I'm fortunate that that was my reaction. But what I've learned in, some of the programs I've done, and when I went away to that retreat,
Treat.
everybody reacts differently. Somebody else in the same situation would have actually retreated and just made themselves incredibly small
Mm-hmm.
and fallen victim to that trap of, this is the best things could ever be. And I think that's sort of what I'm getting at with the idea of, the way our own beliefs are set up. It affects the way we view other people's their dreams. When they tell us something,
Yes.
we're not seeing it through their lens, and
Right.
we're not even programmed to try to understand it through their lens. We're automatically viewing it through our own
Through our own.
experiences. And oftentimes you can deflate people before they even get started by not realizing that you don't actually have to understand what it is that they want. I
Mhm.
think the thing I've always obviously it's easier said than done. I don't have kids to reference this yet, but if my kid is showing passion in a particular thing, I have to trust that there's something otherworldly that's speaking to my kid that is making them so passionate about this one thing. Even if I don't understand it,
Mm-hmm.
I have to allow them to explore that, because not exploring it makes them kill off a part of themselves and really dull their own light at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I'm trying to get at. And again, that's the norm. That's norm. That's what most parents will do that without even realizing it.
No, I agree with you, but we never discourage you on, going about your ideas and your thoughts about exploring the
would
media.
We support you. We supported you, but at the same time,
Yeah.
it was not 100% in the sense that I still felt insecure about it.
Right.
Because as a parent, you want your child to be the best. You want the child to be able to have a stable life and know that he's gonna be fine and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So as a parent, that's why sometimes these things can occur,
Mhm.
because we're not seeing it the way you're seeing it.
Right. And
So
I'm not
now
seeing
it's
it the
like-
way you're seeing it either.
Right.
That's the
Right.
other part of it as well. I'm interpreting it my own way as well.
Right.
So I'm interpreting it as, you don't believe in me, you don't
Right. And
believe in my
right.
Oh, when
talent,
it's
or
not,
those
yeah.
things.
Right.
Right. That's what I'm saying. The lack of
Well,
communication,
that's it. The
and
lack of communication.
and everybody is
Yeah,
more so inclined to have themselves be heard than actually just listen for
I agree.
Yeah.
It's just that we live in a type of society that there's not much of a relationship, a healthy relationship, where people gather. Like I used when I was growing up. Every Sunday we used to gather at my grandmother's house,
Mhm.
and the whole family was there. My aunts were there. They cooked. We exchange ideas. We got advice. I related to my cousins. We had a relationship,
Yeah.
and then
You have a point there,
that-
because I think that there was like a disconnect.
Mhm.
I think, and as I said, as a child, I remember the same thing. We were always, together, all my aunts and my uncles and their children and my grandmother, and that's the time that we would sit
Mhm.
and discuss things and have communication about how their week went, or how their job is
Exactly.
doing, or what do you, or sharing, like, I need your opinion. I just was offered a job. What do you think?
Mhm.
That there was time allotted for that
For
type
family,
of communication.
for
So
family,
I
yeah.
think the way people now is everybody lives their own lives.
Yes, they're isolated.
Yeah,
Like,
everybody's become
it-
isolated.
ice and silos. They
Yeah.
live in these
Yeah,
silos,
yeah,
Mhm.
and
yeah.
that's not good, because then you don't get to know the other person better.
Right.
You don't exchange ideas. You don't become aware of what's going out there besides your
Right.
immediacy,
Right.
and that's not good.
Yeah.
But as
I think that's something here as we speak, that it's something for the three of us to kind of use as a lesson and hear what we're saying. I think the message I'm saying to you,
Mhm.
just like I hear your message, is that we need to really take time, whether it's one day a week, to sit down. You understand? And let's talk, or what's going on with you? Anything different? You know, what does your week look
And
like?
we have started doing
And
that
we
though,
did. We did.
which was a recent development, which I'm happy that we kind of broke
Yeah.
out of that cycle. I mean, and to be fair, you know, you guys had to work a lot too. We didn't have the luxury
Yes.
of just having a parent at home, or being able to be home, at an early time when the
Yes.
kid got home from school or something
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
You both worked, you both had long commutes, and all those things. And as now, being an adult and working, and, not having the responsibility of kids, I'm exhausted by the time the day comes, or by the time the weekend comes. I just want to unplug
Like
and
you hear, like your time just goes by.
yeah, no. And so I
know?
get it. What's tough when you don't have that luxury of having
Mm-hmm.
the ability to take more time off.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. And it's
Go ahead.
No, but as far as the media thing that you have accomplished, and all these things that you are passionate about, that you like, I went to college for that.
Mhm.
And all this, when I went into it, it was a little bit of everything. Radio, TV, and press, written press. And I thought that I would make a career out of that when I was in college. And so you're basically fulfilling a dream that I wanted to accomplish when I was growing up, when I was going to college for
Mhm.
this.
Mhm.
Okay. Unfortunately, when I came up here to the States, uh, you know, that's what I'm reading now and researching about what happened from the transition from the 70s to the 80s, that media became, so, tangled up. In other words, they became smaller.
Mhm.
There were more mergers, more, the opportunities for people that love and had a passion in the media kind of started fading away, in the sense that the opportunities were not there. A lot of people went into studying journalism, communication, mass media communication, but unfortunately, they had to divert from that because it was shrinking. So the opportunities were not there. And so when I came up to the States, I thought I was going to be able to accomplish that, especially in New York, because you had all the biggest broadcasting stations there. But it was transitioning already to make that
See,
world smaller.
See, this is where I would push back though, because I came up, what you're talking, 30 something years after, so it's even worse and more conglomerated.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm lucky that the digital space exists that opens more opportunities.
Sure.
But when I came
Yes.
into it
Yes.
almost 10 years ago at this point, podcasting wasn't existing like this,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
And also, it's very competitive.
that-
now.
right, but this is what my point is. I think without realizing it, you're also mirroring some of the limiting beliefs where you're not thinking that you could have made it in that sort
No,
of time period.
because at that time I had to make ends meet. I mean, I didn't have the luxury to be able to.
But that's the real
Right.
truth. Then.
Right.
That's the real truth. It's not the
Right.
industry's fault. It's not
Right.
any of those things.
No,
Right.
the industry has changed. I mean, what happened? I mean, the lucky thing that you had going for yourself was
Mhm.
that the internet exploded in the 2000s.
Yeah, but remember, I got into radio before
Right.
that even became a thing. Social media existed, but when I got into that, radio was still king. The people that were on the radio weren't showing their faces like that. It wasn't about video like it is now.
Right.
So
Sure.
the jobs were actually depleting at that
Right.
No,
point.
that's what I was
Right.
saying. That
Right.
that you didn't have that much. In other words, back in the 70s, there was much more to cover.
Sure.
The world was totally different. Okay, and there were more opportunities in journalism and mass media.
Right. Well, there were less
And-
competition for information.
And then you had the 80s, and then in the 80s, mid 80s, started transitioning to something else.
Yeah.
And then by the 90s, it got caught up a little bit more. And then 2000 came about, and then you had that explosion of internet. Like already by the 90s, you started seeing new technology developed, the internet, but not as
Yeah.
much as in the
But
2000s.
what I'm saying is your initial.
Facebook,
I know I get
all
that, but what
that.
I'm saying is your initial
Mhm.
inclination was to blame the industry,
Mhm.
and what I'm saying is, unfortunately, you were more than anything a product of circumstance.
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Well,
Because you
You came
you
here
know
and you didn't have
right
that. You
the
guys,
luxury
right?
of
yeah,
waiting
that's
for a
You didn't
part.
have a pot
Yeah,
to piss in.
sure.
What do you?
That's part.
I
But
had the luxury of
no, no.
being a broke kid in my parents' basement
Right.
and spending
I was
all
just
my
gonna
last
say that.
money
Yeah,
to drive into the city and make
yeah,
connections,
yeah.
do whatever
You
the hell
you
I
had
had to do.
you had
Right.
the
Had that
space.
little extra step.
You
Yeah,
had
Right.
you had the space to do all that,
right.
accomplish that, volunteer because you did a lot of volunteering.
Yeah,
Right. Where
Okay,
it
and
was
you didn't
impossible for him to do something
exactly.
right,
like that when we
Uh,
had a family.
right.
exactly. And like I said before, what we're living right now, it's a world where it's totally different from the 60s,
Yeah.
70s,
Oh
and
yeah.
and the
No,
80s.
of course,
You know,
I get all that. What I'm saying though is you're the lens with you ended up seeing everything and then gave your advice to me and things like
Right.
that. You weren't looking at it from the correct lens of how I have more of a leg up than you did. Therefore, it doesn't have to be this doomsday scenario. That's
Right.
all that I'm saying.
no, no,
Right.
and we
Right.
never. I mean, I don't think I ever said it that way. I mean, I wanted you to succeed in what you wanted to do.
Mhm.
Okay, and I always told you, you have the knack. You have the,
I think there's a little bit of revisionist history happening.
Well, I don't know.
That was never. There was never. Listen, to you. To be fair, you guys let me kind of do what I had to do, and there are a lot of people whose parents pushed them out of the house at 18 or whatever the hell it is, and
Exactly.
made them start paying rent and things like that. You guys never did any of those things, but there wasn't this encouragement. There for sure. There was. It was
Well, because we have to, as parents, we have to let you find yourself,
right.
let you find
Right.
the path that you want to go.
Right.
I don't believe in telling anybody, especially my own kids, what to do with their lives. Okay.
Well,
Now, as
Well,
far as when it's time to start already thinking about what you really want to do, okay, which was obviously after 18,
mhm.
okay, and
But even then, but I think what I'm saying is we're rushing kids into thinking they have to just be jumping into life. I
right.
didn't have to have it figured out in my 20s. I didn't figure it out till
Absolutely.
my 30s,
Right.
and I'm okay.
Right.
And that's the difference. Where it's this ticking clock that happens, and you guys are a product again of society and what societal norms and all these things are. And that's where some of the problem lies. We have a lot more time to figure this type of stuff
Right.
out than
Right.
we actually, like to think of. I wanted to also talk about beyond that was the retreat I went away to as well. I want to make sure I make time for that.
Yes.
When I went away to the Hoffman process
Yes.
in Connecticut, I think it's safe to say that our relationship changed drastically after that. And I don't think I never really shared some of the specific things that we did when I was there, but a couple of things that were really impactful for that. One of the things they made us do was write a letter from the perspective of each of you as a child. So I had to pretend like I was my mom as a child. I had to pretend like I was my dad as a child, and just like piecing together what I knew about you guys, I had to write from the perspective of you as a kid. And in doing that, it created a lot of empathy for you guys and your upbringing, and allowed me to really see where you were coming from.
Mhm.
And I think that has allowed for a much healthier relationship, because when there are times that we inevitably get on each other's nerves or do something that the other one doesn't like, I can remember or see where that might be coming from. And, I'm not perfect at it, but it allows me to kind of digest that a little bit more. And I think that was one of the greatest sort of gifts that they gave me. And I wish a lot more people were able to kind of have that sort of profound experience, because I think while, some things, other people have had crazy upbringings and things like that, things I can't relate to, but I think we often fail to realize our parents were humans at one, kids at one point and
Mhm.
teenagers, and went through all their stuff as well. that has kind of shaped them into having some of the characteristics, both good and bad, that we see today. So that was really a profound kind of change for me. And yeah, I don't think we've ever really talked about. I've heard it in passing, but how you feel like things have changed after I went away to that.
Yes, I noticed a drastic change. I noticed that you were more expressive
Mm.
in the sense that you were showing feelings, where I felt you didn't like, you would say, I love you, and I never really heard that,
Mm.
until I noticed that you went to this retreat and you started sharing more, like telling me, or telling your dad, I love you. And that was very important to me because I felt like, you know, it, why is it that you never really showed
Mhm.
feelings or expressed how you're feeling? Um, I felt that you kept a lot to yourself. And so almost like we had to guess,
Mhm.
what's going on or what's, in your head. And then we felt like there were times if we would ask, I think you would get upset.
Mhm.
Um, so the communication was not really healthy at that time because I couldn't reach you.
Mhm.
You understand? And I always said, gee, I hope that things can change. I don't know. I also took it maybe maturity, that
Mhm.
you needed to mature more and see what, you know, see us at a different light,
Mhm.
that and you said it when you spoke before that you did realize that we were working parents. Not only did I work, but I also went to school,
Mhm.
so my day was a very long day. And there were, yes, many times that I felt guilty that I'm not home when my kids get home from school, but I had a choice to make, and I needed to do something different because I needed to improve your life.
Mhm.
You understand? And the only way we can do it was trying to do something better for ourselves where our lifestyle could change a little more,
Mhm.
to the better. But I did notice, and I was very grateful for that you went to that retreat, because I feel that ever since that retreat, that our relationship has grown tremendously.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's more empathy and
Yeah.
more trying to listen and respect each other's point of view, which
Mhm.
is important in order to have a two-way
Mhm.
communication.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And and it basically, I guess, it makes you understand that this, in order to understand each other, you have to open those links of communication and be able to get deep into people's lives, not
Right.
isolate
Right.
yourself. You were too isolated, and that's not good. That's what I see here. Again, I don't. It's just that I don't want to harp on culture here, but
Mhm.
it depends where you are at. I mean, I noticed that people more up here in the mainland, they're more isolated. They don't have,
Well, people are very busy.
yeah,
You understand?
they're
Very busy, and
rushing
everything. Yes.
and so
Yes.
if you don't, in other words, everything has in order for you to grow in life and have be able to sympathize with other people and be able to open up and be able to have a real decent friendship and relationships with family, you have to be open and see each other
Mhm.
more often, be
Mhm.
able to relate to each other so you
There has
could
to be a safe
understand.
space as well, though.
Right.
uh,
That's
Right.
that's also the other
Right. A
thing
safe space.
because
When you
what
say safe space, like what?
you have to be receptive to what I'm gonna
Right.
say, even if it
Right.
means if it's
Right.
something that isn't a
I
positive
was gonna
thing
say that.
about you that it
Right.
affected me.
Right.
Because when I was isolated and very closed off, which is true, I was protecting myself.
Mhm.
I didn't feel comfortable expressing my feelings or emotions or things like that,
Well, why you didn't feel comfortable expressing yourself?
because I didn't feel that there was a receptive audience to
Right.
it. I didn't feel like, that if I was to, because if I did express something, a lot of times you had the stereotypical parent answer of your life is so great you have nothing to complain about.
Mhm.
And And that's just not a real thing. Everybody has issues.
Right.
Doesn't matter how good your life is or how much, it's not the trauma Olympics where you went through this that's worse than me, so therefore I don't get to talk about what
Right.
bothers me or whatever it is. You get what I'm saying? I think that's what ends up happening for a lot of people in their parent dynamics or whatever relationship dynamics is you didn't have it as tough as me, stop complaining. And that closes people off at the end of the day. And I think even, if outside of even family stuff, being scared of people using things against you, if you did show any sort of emotion or any sort of softness, I think as a man as well, that's a sign of weakness. If you have any sort of emotion or care, you can't show that, so people are going to use that against you, and
Right.
and you're going to end up becoming the butt of the
Right.
punishment.
Right.
So I think it's a combination of all those things. And I think also for me, even it's maybe a bit of perfectionism of if I share that things are wrong with me, people are going to judge me.
Right.
People are going to, think less of me. And that's a real fear that I think a lot of people struggle with. But again, in the house, back to kind of family stuff, it has to be a two-way conversation. It can't be, you getting offended because I'm telling you something that you did that bothers me,
Right.
I think we all take everything as like a personal attack when it's not, it's just somebody expressing themselves. And
Yeah, but I think also you have to have the right tact and tone when you have sensitive conversations because you can't come out too strong. I think that most people these days like to live in a cocoon and, and shell themselves from the, completely isolate themselves from the world or immediate issues that they're dealing with. And they don't surround themselves with people, the right people. That's very important, that you have good friends, family that knows where your heart is, where you're coming from.
Right.
So when you have these type of very sensitive conversations,
Right.
they know that you're being honest about what you're saying and that you're not really insulting anybody. If you happen to say something that usually you hear that from someone else, you will be highly offended and then confront the person
But
because
when
because they don't know you.
Yeah, I agree there.
And
Like,
vice
in other words,
versa.
if you know where their heart is,
Yes.
you understand, then you can accept it more than somebody, let's say, that you don't know much about, and now it's saying what they're saying to you that you're offended.
Yeah.
That's where I see where a problem can come in. But I think, as he said, that when for example, let's say your dad, as an example, you know where his heart is. So there might be times that he may say something that can be, upsetting to you.
Sure.
But since you know where it's coming from, it's okay. I may be upset, but I'm gonna get over it because I know my dad. He wants the best for me.
Right.
You understand? You're not taking it in a personal way.
And build a resentment
Right,
on,
and build-
that. And
yeah,
that's the problem that
Yeah. I just going back a little bit to what you were saying when when you were home and that you isolated. I said I always remember, since you're talking about this, always trying to make you happy. And I remember always like giving into certain things, like you wanted a whole new in the basement, you wanted furniture, you wanted a new beds, you wanted a new this. And I remember like saying, okay,
was
let's go
selling my
buy
boat
You understand?
and buying a brand new
a
drum
drum
set.
set.
I helped you sell the boat though, but
Yeah.
but
But you got a drum set
Who,
out of it.
who did the
But
boat
anyway,
belong to?
how many times did you use the boat?
It doesn't matter.
15, 20
But
years
it
that you
doesn't
had
matter.
it.
But it was
It
my
was your
boat.
The answer is one. But
And I
go-
used
he's
to
right,
sit
but go
inside
ahead.
the boat.
One
I used to
time.
sit inside the boat
In the
clean
driveway.
clean it. Yes,
clean
know.
it, swallow some gas, that type of thing.
We don't have to go there. But
But I always remember going out of my way to make you happy because I couldn't understand why you isolate yourself. You
Yeah.
understand? So I remember saying, you would say, "Oh, I want to go buy this." Okay, I'll get it for you. The TV, you wanted a TV downstairs. We found a way to get this TV. Because I knew that made you happy. But as I started knowing you better, I knew that was like a Band-Aid.
Right.
You understand? It was a temporary fix. That was not the problem. You understand? That was not the problem. The problem was something else.
Yeah.
You understand? But I remember doing all these things, and And even as recent as just a few years ago, maybe actually from your retreat,
Mhm.
I said, how did I not notice, or was I in denial
Mm.
that you were going through a depression, that
Mhm.
you were depressed? And I said, how is it that in my field
Right.
that I was in, that I did not, and that's why I say it was a denial,
Mhm.
that I did not recognize that my son is depressed.
Mhm.
I need to find out, why is he depressed? What's causing it?
Mhm.
You understand? And I didn't, because, like I said, I can imagine that. I don't know. Did I ever say to myself, I think he's depressed?
Mhm.
No, I don't think I did. I really felt like,
Well, because we never.
he's
I
not
mean,
appreciating
yeah.
that, it became that point. Like, he doesn't
Mhm.
look at everything I did. I did this,
You don't pick up
but
on it.
I
Yes.
didn't, where I should have been a little more aware of a behavior that we're trained to do,
Mhm.
you know? But,
But it's the
but like,
stigma also,
yeah,
the
yeah,
stigma that we have with
yes,
mental health and
yes,
things like that.
yes,
We automatically
a-
attribute it to the
absolutely,
most extreme version
yes,
of it, that if somebody's
absolutely.
depressed or they get help, it must mean they're like on the verge of
Right,
suicide or
right,
something like that.
right,
And we don't
right,
recognize
right. They're
that, yeah,
crazy.
they're crazy, they need
Yeah,
to be locked
yeah,
away. We don't
yeah,
recognize all the in
yeah,
between that
yeah.
exists
And
within
I'm
that.
happy that that has changed.
Mhm.
But you're right. You understand? You're right. So, but like I said, from that retreat, I felt that our relationship completely changed. It made me realize what you were going through.
Mhm.
Okay, what you went through. All right. And I that was a learning experience for me, even though I did not attend the retreat.
Mhm.
It was still a learning experience for me.
That makes me feel good to hear, like, that my own journey and my own work has also had a positive effect,
Impact on
yeah,
us.
on
Yeah.
you guys. And the other thing that they had us do on the retreat that was really impactful, and it's heavy, but I share it just because I thought it was such a important exercise, that maybe will help anybody else, is they actually had us do a funeral for our parents. Yeah. And it felt real. It felt really real. It was I didn't, like, you had been they have you just kind of going through all the
Uh-huh.
motions,
Mhm.
and like, I really felt
Mm.
what it would feel like to lose you guys. Like, it felt, I didn't know what was real or what wasn't.
Right.
And
But what was the purpose of that? I mean, what? I
It,
mean, I understand to open up, like, open up feelings that you probably are not waiting to feel them right now. That is supposed to happen way down the road.
yeah,
But what's the meaning of that? What was the meaning of
the
that
purpose.
exercise? The purpose of that?
because oftentimes I think it's not until the tragedy happens or the worst
Yes.
case scenario happens that we realize
Yeah.
the importance of certain people or certain things. And it's only after the fact that we then get that sort of reflection. And then we have those regrets, or even in the best case scenario, you're there celebrating that person's life, but you're doing it after you no longer get to make any more memories with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that exercise eventually, when you kind of get out of it and you kind of come back down to reality, there's an immense amount of gratitude in knowing that it wasn't real,
Mm-hmm.
that I get to have more experiences with these people that I love. And
Right.
You mean make more time
yeah, but or just in general, just
Right.
have better
Right.
with them? Yeah.
experiences.
Right.
Make the most of
Right.
of the times that we
Exactly.
have, and also just appreciate them while they're here, and not wait until after the
I
fact.
agree. I agree.
And I think that was one of the more trying moments of that entire thing.
Mhm.
But that was profound. It was like when you wake up from a bad dream
Yes.
and you're so grateful that it wasn't real.
Yes.
It was that it was moving, and I think, you know, you guys, I think some people there, they had already lost their parents, so it, you know, it was kind of reliving that. But for me, it was a greater gift of the fact that my parents were still here at the end of it, and I got to have that experience and
Mhm.
that sort of awakening to it, you know, because I mean, you both have lost a parent, and um you know, I know that.
And a brother.
Yeah, and I know those are things that the emotions kind of come and go in waves,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um, and I'm sure there are a lot of things that were left unsaid that you wish you could have said, or more moments you could have
Mhm.
experienced, you know. And I think um, the beauty of that experience was the fact that I get to move on in life, knowing what that feels like, and wanting to you know, make the most of the precious time, I guess. So I think that was probably one of the more impactful ones for
Yes.
sure. I've never spoken about that
Wow.
before.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's
That's
it's heavy, you know. I
it's
mean,
heavy, but
it's
I think it's
but it
a
was if it
that
was
was
an exercise
yeah.
to make you realize what's
Yes.
important in life,
Yes. Yes.
and change your way of carrying yourself in life, then by all means, you know, those type of exercises have to be taken. It's too bad that we have to go through that kind of therapy thing in order to realize how important
Right.
relationships
Mhm.
are.
Mhm.
And but again, we're just a product of the environment that we happen to live here. Everybody, like I said before, is isolated to themselves.
Mhm.
I think
You
also, I think, as I said before, I think it's very busy.
Mhm.
You understand? And when it's busy, people tend to say, you know what, let me take this time to go visit whoever, your parents, your sister, your brother. But there are times that you're so, as you said,
Mhm.
you're so exhausted
Yeah.
that we forget that moment
Mhm.
and you say, oh, I'm just too tired to go.
Mm.
But those are the times, as you pointed out, that sometimes we regret because we said, gee, you know, all this time, you know, I could have been there and the person's gone, you know, and you know, so what? I was tired.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So those are things that it's a way of trying to retrain yourself. I don't know what that would be called,
I, I,
but I
mm,
think that's what it is. You know,
I,
it's almost like we take life for
yeah,
granted.
I
Well,
think
yeah.
we have
Really,
to.
that's what it comes
I
down
think we
to.
have to break ourselves down, take down a lot of barriers that we self-imposed on ourselves.
Yeah,
Mhm.
We have to be
yeah,
more
yeah.
humble, more approachable, and understand people, you know, where they're coming from.
Well, I'm just adding, you know, that where I have to say that you have really you have like, which I guess is a question, maybe like what really helped you to get where you are today? Because I heard your struggles, I heard your support, I heard determination.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, so I'm happy and I thank God every day that I see that you have really found what you love
Mhm.
Hmm.
and that you're going to continue doing it and you're going to continue growing.
And you have to because you're
So,
helping a lot of
my
people.
question to you then is what helped you um, get where you are?
Mhm.
Was it because, as you said, I need to prove to some people that I can do it, that I can make it? What exactly led to your success?
Um, I think at first it was proving people wrong.
Hmm.
Um, but that only lasts for but so long
Right?
before that becomes negative
Hmm.
and an empty sort of race or journey.
Yeah.
Because then you're just chasing things that you think would make other people jealous or make other people see your success, and those things don't actually make you happy anymore. I think I don't know. I think I, it's discipline for sure.
Hmm.
I think I think at the end of the day, it's always just no. I've always had this thing in my heart that there was something more than my current situation. There was something more out there for me,
Mm-hmm.
and even as a kid, I really did believe that I was meant for something more than the normal life. Um, and I don't know. That's not really something somebody else could replicate, but I think we all are meant for something more if we really want it, or if we really put our head to it. Whatever that more ends up being for people. Um,
So it was really believing in yourself, believing that you can do this and that you will do this.
yeah, but I mean that went with waves of believing if I could actually do it or not. I think it's just I don't know. I don't know what it's a need to dig a little bit deeper. I think that's what it is. It's just there's always something in me that wants to dig deeper.
Right,
If I'm being vulnerable, how can I be more vulnerable?
right.
If I've done this, how can I duplicate it or do it even better or
Do it
bigger?
better.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's just the constant energy that I'm always on. Or if it's I think it's a few. It's when the intuition strikes me, I view it as something. It's godlike. It's God speaking to me. It's
Right.
Exactly.
Because I see all the new things that you're constantly growing with something.
yeah.
You go from one thing to one project to another project that's better than the prior project. I see how you keep growing and growing and growing. I mean, even to the fact of writing books.
Mhm.
You've written books. I mean, it's like everything that has come to your mind, you have been able to accomplish it.
And you have to have that perseverance,
Mhm.
because without perseverance, you basically at a point you'll follow it for a little bit, but then you kind of give up and divert to something else.
Mhm.
So you have been able to, I guess,
You
internalize.
stay focused.
Yeah,
Right.
internalize. Yeah, that
That's
you
my
have to. Yeah, you have to internalize. You have internalized already that in order to accomplish all these projects, I have to be persistent in it, and until it's not finished, then I cannot move to
Mhm.
something else. And then also look around what next is
Well, I
will
think a
be
lot
for
of
me
it
good
too.
to
I think
put some
going
light
back,
on
I
that
think it also has to do
issue.
with loving what you do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's
like I
basically it.
mentioned
When
before.
you love
Yes,
what you do, you're gonna keep going.
exactly. No
But I
matter
think more
what.
more than anything, I know what I don't want,
Right.
Hmm.
That's important.
and I think that's what keeps me motivated.
Yes.
So I the same way and this sounds dramatic, but I view going back to a 9 to 5 lifestyle is the equivalent of me going back to jail or something like that. Like somebody who is in jail and they say I'm never going
Right.
back.
Hmm.
Right.
That's the way that I view it.
Right.
It sounds like the worst
So
thing in
you're
the world to
constantly
me.
working towards in case.
Yeah, I'm
You're
never letting.
preparing for the future.
Yeah, well, I'm never letting myself get comfortable.
Yes.
I know that I never
Absolutely.
want my life to be controlled by anybody else,
Right.
and for anybody else to have the power to dictate how my life is lived.
Right.
So for me, it's always
Yes.
digging a bit deeper. How can I
Yes.
create more freedom? How can I
Yes.
give myself more opportunities to
Yes.
experience life?
Yes.
And always, how can I stay ahead of, you know, when things are changing or when an opportunity may dry up? How can I make sure that I'm a step ahead of that?
Right.
That I've already moved on to the next thing to make sure I continue to give myself the life that I
Yes.
I dream about.
Yes.
And I think that more than anything, that's what it is. I value my freedom
Yes.
more than anything else, more
Yes.
than money, more than accolades or anything like that. The freedom is what I've been chasing forever.
Yes.
It just took on
Yes.
different forms, but it's
Yes.
freedom is what I'm chasing.
Yes. Yes.
At the end of the day, I think that's what it is.
And not overextend yourself, like you just measure, you know, uh, like I said before, you go forward with the projects that you need to accomplish, you finish them and you move on to the next one. But at the same time, you're looking around of other things that you want to bring some light on
Mhm.
and take on later on. But you don't jump into that right away until you finish what is immediate for
Yeah.
you to,
Yeah.
get out there. And that's important. That's something admirable that a quality that you have.
You have to be able to compartmentalize things
Yes.
and know
Exactly.
where your energy needs to be prioritized.
Exactly.
Mhm.
At the end of the day,
And research like you do a lot of research. You inform yourself.
Mhm.
You
That's why I said that's
interview
what it means.
people,
Like,
interview
the
people
passion,
that
the love
that
that you
that
have for what you do
you,
is what motivates you to
yeah,
continue.
you interview people that have a point of view that you like, and and you like to explore, that person's mind to see
Mhm.
what else, is out there that that person
I
could
wanna make an
bring.
impact as well.
Exactly.
More that it's freedom, but the freedom to truly make an impact in this world in some sort of way,
Yeah,
to do my part, I think.
especially that you're out there in the media, that
Mhm.
in a medium that people are listening to, following the person, and they're looking for answers like you did before. They're constantly looking for
I
answers.
mean, even going back a little bit, when I said to you how you have inspired different people out there. And the reason I said that is because I know people who are
Hmm.
going through
Mental health problems.
mental health problems,
Mhm.
and how they have said to me, I love, hearing Danny because he inspires me.
Hmm.
That makes me feel I'm not alone out here.
Mm.
Okay. Their feelings have changed. And this has been several people that have actually said something to me
Mhm.
about how you have inspired them. That's why I say that continue the work
Hmm.
because you are reaching people
Yeah,
out there,
and you need it.
you
You
know,
need it out there,
and we need
especially,
more people
yeah,
like
like
you,
yourself. Yes.
to kind of hopefully change the way, change the world, the way they think
Mhm.
about people going through mental health problems.
Mhm.
Exactly. The
You understand
stereotypes and
that,
the
you
stigmas
know,
that go with that.
the
Yeah.
way you approach it, the way you say it, that word has to get out there.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Because we have too many now, and I'm very proud of this work that you're doing
Hmm.
because you definitely are making a difference. You may not realize it, but you are
Mm.
impacting a lot of people out
Thousands of
there.
people, yeah,
A
out
lot of
there,
people
and
out
that's that's
there.
that's something that you can't even fathom when when you started. You
Mhm.
you didn't fathom that at this point of your life,
Where you would
the
be,
impact that you have
changing
brought
more
about,
people.
right now, that people are benefiting from that,
Mhm.
and that's a plus. That's something that you should always feel proud of and good. So it's an accomplishment, and
Thank
we
you.
congratulate you on that. We
Yes,
want you to
definitely,
be able to continue. You're
definitely.
needed, you're loved, and a lot of people appreciate you. We definitely, us, we
Mhm.
appreciate you, we love you, and we always want you to keep striving,
Exactly.
and lots of successes, because
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
it's something that we feel proud. This is one thing that every single day I'm very happy that you went into something that you really like, and that you feel good about, and that you never get tired. That's the whole thing. You don't get tired of it
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
you really like it. It's your
Mm.
passion.
Yeah.
It's like food.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
feeds you.
No, yeah, yeah. I feel if I even if I am tired or drained after I do it, I feel energized.
Right.
Mhm.
And
And
that's
accomplished, right?
yeah, yeah. And that's the opposite of most people's
Yes.
jobs.
Right.
Unfortunately.
But I appreciate you guys. I think that's a good way to end. I appreciate the conversation and you guys being open and honest, and
Right.
I love you guys very much.
We love
We
you
love you
too.
too,
We love you
and
too.
congratulations.
Thank you.
And continue the success.
Yes,
We stand
absolutely,
behind you 100%.
absolutely.
Thank you. Man, big shout out to my parents for hopping on the show. That still sounds wild to me to even say. And you know what? I just a quick aside. I've always tried to be very private when it comes to the people in my life that I care about, be it those that I'm dating, be it my actual family. I don't usually like to put them on camera and put their faces out there like that, just because I don't want to invite them into the nonsense that comes along with what I do. But I kind of felt like this was important. And yeah, I know I got a lot of this conversation, and I just felt like if I have the opportunity to move the needle or to inspire somebody to repair some of the things that maybe they've wanted to for a while in their life, or to mend some of the relationships in their life, I need to take that opportunity and put aside my own sort of short-term fears within that, and understand that this is for the greater good of people, not to, make it some grandiose thing, but for anybody who listens to this, I think it's I don't know, I guess it's the juice was worth the squeeze, if you will. And I think that's sort of what I'm getting at with why I put my parents on camera. There also is a video version of the show, which I don't think a lot of people know. If you go on YouTube, the My Cultura podcast YouTube channel, you can see all the episodes there, the video version of it. You can get the full experience. So that's what I'm referencing. So, man, yeah, big shout out to my parents. Thank you to them for birthing me and hopping on the show and being honest. I know this is awkward as all hell, so I appreciate them. Now, with that said, let's get your take on this topic of parenthood, man, and our relationship with our parents. We'll do it in our Ask a Gringo segment.
Ask a Gringo.
I have a question.
All right, so for this week's Ask a Gringo segment, we're going to keep it short and sweet because I know that conversation was pretty damn long. But I did post this on my Instagram at DJ Dramos if you want to be a part of these conversations. I asked one thing you'd want to ask or tell your parents. And I'm going to only be able to read a couple responses here. So I think it's Jalen G. Va. Sorry if I absolutely butchered your name. They asked, what was your biggest regret when it came to raising your children? And that's interesting. You know what's funny is I was going to ask my parents something like that, but my mom kind of answered it without me really having to ask. And I apologize for putting words in her mouth, but when I was actually really moved when she talked about not recognizing that I was dealing with depression. And, I didn't really for whatever reason, I haven't thought in my mind that my parents are retrospectively thinking about our relationship and my upbringing. And I was really touched by that. I was actually shocked by it and didn't really have many words for it. I feel like in the moment, because it was just, I felt really seen there. And that I think that is a lot of what was some of the built up resentment within our relationship, was not feeling seen. And to hear my mom kind of speak about that and almost guilt herself for it and not, guilt herself for not being able to see it in the moment was really profound for me. And again, just sort of adds to that empathy, because it's not something she was ignoring on purpose or consciously ignoring. She didn't see it or didn't want to believe it or was in denial herself, for her own, feelings about mental health and things like that, her own sort of, I don't know, the stereotypes maybe she had in her head that didn't allow her to admit that, thinking that it might have meant something even more dangerous for me. And just to hear her kind of reflect on that, I think was really kind of profound. Not to make this all about me, it's your question, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting to hear your parents kind of in retrospect relive those moments and maybe see what they could have done differently or wish they would have done differently. I think it's a beautiful thing. Why not ask that question to your parents? I mean, I don't know your relationship with them, but I would be curious to challenge you to ask that question to your parents and kind of see what they say. I think it'd be pretty eye-opening and maybe even healing, like it kind of was for me to hear my mom reflect on that moment. So just some food for thought. And lastly, at Bren J Life Coaching, the homie, my partner in crime here. So just a preface to her comment here, for the Just Be Social Club, which is my wellness brand, or our wellness brand, I should say. We meet up like this mastermind. If you're a part of it, you already know this, but monthly we meet up, and within it, I give people homework based upon the conversations that we're having. And one of the homework assignments was to write a letter to yourself, to your younger self, and bestow to them all the information you've learned, and seeing where they were at that point and how you are here now. Write a letter from the perspective of your younger self. I can't remember if it was from the perspective of your younger self, or if you're writing it currently to your younger self. But either way, the exercise was to put yourself in the shoes of your younger self, essentially, right? So Bren is referencing that here. So she says, I want to read them my healing letter about them, the one I shared with the Just Be Social Club. And I think she's actually more so referencing, she actually wrote a letter to her parents. We did a lot of different homeworks, and I think Brett might have actually done a couple extra letters, which is what is, my memory is a little bit foggy because this was a few months ago that we did this. But I think she actually wrote a letter to her parents, and not necessarily like with the intention of them reading it, but just to get it out, right? And I think that's an exercise, by the way, anybody listening, you could you challenge yourself to. You don't necessarily have to show it to anybody, but like just writing a letter with all the things you would want to say to them just to get it out of your system. It could be a healthy exercise. So she said, I'd want to read them my healing letter about them, the one I share with the Just Be Social Club. How you feel about them today? Good, bad, ugly. Thanking them for 3 greatest gifts they've given you, 3 greatest lessons, 3 greatest wounds. It's a beautiful healing letter, which it really was. And obviously, when you're being very raw and honest in the way that you can be with a letter, it might not rub everybody the right way. And that's a lot of what we were talking about with my parents, is like a safe space for that. Not everybody has that. Not everybody has created that. Therefore, not everybody can expect to have those types of open conversations. Even my parents and I have been talking about this on camera and on microphone here for the podcast. Like, it still feels a bit uncomfortable. It still is tough to just come outward and have these really vulnerable conversations, because you never know how people are going to receive it. People are going to get defensive. People are human, and I think it's all a part of our journey. But I think at the end of the day, I know for me, after this conversation with my parents, I felt some weight come off my shoulders. As intense as the lead up to it was, as like anxious about it as I was, I felt a lot come off my shoulders. And I think even in the letter, like Bren referenced, where you might not even be actually ever planning on really reading it to them, or not now at least, I think there is some relief in it, in really reflecting on your relationship. And I love the good, bad, ugly parts about it, not just on all bad, but all the good as well. And I just think we have to get these emotions out some way, somehow. If we can't actually physically do it in the way of having a conversation, it's healthy to be able to at least write it out and get it out of our system to an extent. So that was what the point of the exercise was. But thank y'all for sharing that and participating. Again, at DJ Dramos on Instagram if you want to be a part of these conversations. Future episodes, I'm going to try to make, obviously, this segment a little bit longer. We're just running long with an interview on today's show. And I don't want to hold you too long here. Now, with that said, let's tie everything we talked about today in a neat little bow in a segment we call Conclusion Stew.
Time for conclusion stew.
All right, y'all, I'm not gonna lie. This episode was a fucking emotional roller coaster, and I was ugly crying through part of it. So I apologize if you're watching the video version of it, and I'm out here looking like a meme. But this was real and honest, and I'm not gonna lie. Like, again, I was so fucking nervous and anxious coming into it, and I was shocked at how comfortable my parents got, how comfortable I eventually got, and just the honest conversation that was happening. I think it's wild to really sit down and talk to these people that are my parents and have a human to human interaction, and it not being this sort of dynamic of we are parents, you are child type of thing, but to be at a place in this life where we are, in some ways, speaking on equal ground with the mutual respect. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. And I'm so grateful for the work that I put into healing our relationship. I think I often wonder what I took away from the Hoffman process. And in moments like this one, I'm really reminded of how profound that journey I went on in that retreat, just because of how it changed my dynamic with my parents. We have a real relationship now. We're not just going through the motions of, we're supposed to have a relationship because, I'm their child, but we have a genuine relationship where, I enjoy seeing them and spending time with them, and I want to see them, and I want them to come to the house, and I'm feeling off if they don't come to the house at least once a week like they normally do. So it's yeah, I'm grateful for that experience, and the one part of it where I got to kind of experience what their funeral would be like, and believing they were gone, that really was so eye-opening for me. And I'm grateful that I was one of the lucky people who got to sort of wake up from that nightmare and readjust my life with that information, right? I feel like the guy from is it, A Christmas Carol? Is that the one with Scrooge, Ebenezer Scrooge, who great ghost of Christmas past and future, whatever the fuck it is. I felt like I got to like see what my life would be like if I didn't fix this, and what a blessing that is, So I don't know. I shy away from giving advice on this in particular because I know family dynamics can be incredibly challenging, and there's a lot that I'm not privy to without knowing you. But I would say if you ever see an opportunity for some sort of healing, even if it's just for yourself, if you feel like you can't have that dynamic with your parents, there's been too much trauma, whatever it is, find a way to get to a place where you at least can heal and let go of some of that resentment, because that's incredibly freeing. I know for me to not be carrying that burden on my shoulders of resenting people that I love, and not feeling like I have to prove these people wrong constantly, and having the freedom then to really make decisions based upon what makes me happy, and what is in line with the person that I want to be. That's a level of freedom that I've been blessed with as a result of this. And I'm just recognizing that now. I mean, I talk about how freedom is like the ultimate goal, and then having that freedom, being able to use it to make an impact on people's lives, and all that comes with that. And I think that's sort of what I've always been trying to get at with the idea of like dirty fuel, right? Where you allow the resentment and the chip on your shoulder to be your motivator at first, but eventually that becomes dirty fuel. It's because it eventually starts steering you in the wrong direction of chasing things that don't matter just to rub it in the face of these particular people. And you're no longer in line with what you want. And then you actually end up being controlled by that resentment and that anger. And you're not living this sort of free life that you were intending on in the beginning. I think that's what I'm beginning to realize, is healing my relationship with my parents freed me from making decisions that weren't in line with who I wanted to be. And I think that's the beautiful thing that's kind of come about this. And, I think one day, hopefully a long, 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 long time from now, when I'm much older and they're much older, and it's time for us to say goodbye. I'm grateful that I can say I had the awakening that I did, and made sure that I was making the most of the time that I had left with my parents, and really letting them know how I felt about them, making them a part of my life, and doing my best to have a strong emotional connection with them via the conversations that we'd have with one another and the time we spent with one another. So I'm grateful for that. And I genuinely wish the same for anybody listening who that's possible for. Um, and if it's not possible, to repair it in that way again, I think finding a way to let go of whatever resentment you might be holding on to inside of you, and figure out a healthy avenue to alleviate yourself from carrying around any more of that weight and that burden on your shoulders. So that's my advice. Take it for what it is. Now, with that said, we started off season 3 real heavy, coming in real hot. But I hope that was something y'all enjoyed. I'm so damn happy to be back. It's crazy to me what a couple months off will like. I feel like this is like I'm kind of driving this car blind right now. I'm a little bit off from my game, so I gotta get back on my game a little bit. But it's nice to be back and doing something I love. I feel like I'm finally kind of getting my my life back in order after like, man, we've been off from Life as a Gringo since I think November of last year. So you're talking about 2 months of me just out of my normal schedule and routine. So I'm trying to grasp that right now, but it feels good to be back. Thank y'all so much for the support and tuning in. And I promise we have an amazing season coming up for you. I've so many cool people coming on the show, so many great ideas. I'm really going all in on this podcast. If I wasn't before, I'm 100% all the way in, 110%, 10 toes down right now, standing up business in this podcast this season. So I'm really excited. So thank y'all so much for being a part of it. We'll catch you on Thursday for our Thursday Trends episode. Till then, stay safe and we will talk soon. Peace.